9 o'clock. We are 9?
We are 9.
We are 9. Good morning and welcome to our meeting on the 24th of June. And thank you for attendance. Thank you, councillors and staff, for being here today. Mayor Len is not far away. He's just coming in shortly, but I'll just get proceedings underway. And today we have somebody to do a karakia. We've got somebody organised to do a karakia. Okay. Can we all stand for a karakia, please?
Me karakia, tū tawa mai I runga, tū tawa mai I raro, tū tawa mai I roto, tū tawa mai I waho. Kia tau, te mauri tū, te mauri ora, ki te katoa, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e.
Oh, thank you.
Hardiness. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ari, for that lovely karakia. And welcome everybody. Nice to see some faces that we normally see online. So for our Waters debate. So Nick, Mike and Ian, thank you for being here. Mayor Toby, nice to see you here. And Fiona, Chair of Creative Coromandel, thank you. So we've got a big agenda today. We've got a lot to get through. And so I think this is going to be a real, example of how we work together as a team. And this is the last of our meetings for the year, the adoption of the annual plan. Before we get into it, I'm just going to start by offering thanks to Aileen and her team for getting us to where we are now. And this has been quite a journey, and your team have done an exceptional job in getting us there. And I'd like in particular to thank Donna, who, unless she has snuck in the back, she isn't here today, but Donna and her team have done truly extraordinary work to get us to where we are. So I just wanted to start by offering a vote of thanks to you and your team for that. So, and I think a round of applause just to Aileen and her team. So thank you, everybody. Right, let's crack straight into it. Do we have apologies? There being none. We'll move straight to public forum and invite Mayor Toby Adams, Hauraki District Council, to join us at the table. You'll have 5 seconds starting. Oh, sorry, 5 minutes. I'm sorry, Mayor Toby.
5 seconds, that's all right. No mayor ever listens to a timetable anyway, so I don't know why you're asking for about the 5 minutes. Hey, thank you, and thank you, Mayor Len, for allowing me to be here and welcome me into your rohi and your council chambers. Good morning to all the elected members. I take my hat off to the immense workload that you've had to undertake in this last triennium. It's probably been the worst, and I've been in local government for a little bit, probably the hardest and most challenging time that we've faced in a long time. So I take my hat off to you and to all the staff. It's never easy keeping elected members in tune, but also facing the immense pressure from central government at the moment. So well done to all of you. So I'm here this morning with 3 hats on. One is the chair of the Mayoral Forum for the Waikato. Obviously, one is the mayor of the Hauraki, which is your closest neighbour and most favourite neighbour, I would hope. And the other one is a double ratepayer in your district. So thank you for allowing me to come here. You've got some really big decisions today. Obviously, annual plans is one of them, and your waters decision is another big one. And that's probably one of the biggest decisions this council's had to make since probably 1989 or before that, with the reforms of 1989 about what it looks like going forward for local government and your place in the part of the local government family. So I'm not here to sway you. I'm not here to give you direction on which way you should vote. That's not my role here. I'm just here to speak on behalf of the Mayoral Forum. We met yesterday. We're a long way down the track, obviously, as you well know, with Waikato Water's done well. And when it came up, the question, I put it to the rest of the mayors, and they said that would be great if you could just go and pass on some of the information that they may not be aware of to the entire council and the elected members of what it looks like going forward. So the Waikato Water's done well is made up of 7 councils, with 6 opting to go in on day 1, transferring at different stages. So the first one would go 26, and then it goes out to 27 and possibly even 28. Taupo have made a decision that they've gone out with their preferred option is to keep it in-house at present for their facts and figures, which is absolutely fantastic, but they wanted to stay in the tent and make sure that they were still part of it, and they're going to revisit in 27 and make a final decision by 28, 29, somewhere along those lines. In that framework that they have done, they have asked, and it has been agreed upon by for the rest of the Waikato, is that they can be still part of the process going forward and opt in on some of the procurement stuff that we do together, which we've opened and welcomed because they've been there since the start. So even though they're doing a sort of standalone business at present, they will be still part of procurement and still part of pricing plans and work programs going forward, particularly when it comes to catchment-based resource consenting. Same with Hamilton and Waikato. Hamilton and Waikato came out quite early on with their preferred model, which was a Hamilton Waikato. They had probably hoped that Waipa would join that, but we're making sure that we've been working together with Waikato Water's done well and Hamilton Waikato to use the same building blocks that we've building to put these entities together, with the hope of being able to merge that into one in the coming years, because that's the ultimate goal going forward, particularly for us as ratepayers, and particularly for the government, because that's what they see as going forward. But they're the same thing as what Taupo is. They're a separate entity out here, but they said, why are we going separate and competing? Let's work together and make sure that when we're doing our procurement, when we're buying the likes of water meters and stuff, that we're doing it as a joint procurement, so that we're all benefiting from that stuff, which makes perfect sense. I know you've got an option on the table which is different to that, and that might give you those options to have those procurements and stuff going forward. I meet regularly with, obviously with my role as chair of the Mayoral Forum, but being someone that's a well, maybe not well spoken, maybe that's not the word, is it regarded? Could be regarded, maybe not, but a well regarded mayor within central government. So I'm regularly talking with ministers, have direct contact with most ministers that are affecting us at the moment, and DIA, about what does the future look like going forward for us. And potentially at some point, I think we're all going to go back to that old regime of where, if you remember back to NTDB, that will probably be the long game, but that might be sometime down the track. The hardest decision that we had to make, and what I will say is that currently, Waikato Water's done well is the poster child of New Zealand Waters at present. So we are the group that they come to. We are the group that they present to every other entity around New Zealand, particularly the South Island, and particularly with councils that this current government probably felt were their friends in the tent, are all out there trying to do their own thing and not working together with other councils. And they regularly showcase us as the poster child of the councils being able to work together. And that includes Hamilton Waikato, because our doors haven't shut between the two. The funding that we've been able to untap because we have been so joint together has been great, and it's not public, so I won't release the figure, but we have been given money to help with the establishment cost of that, which is something fantastic. And also regional deals is a huge thing, and we know that there's a few regional deals coming, and I don't think anybody thinks it's a secret that Auckland's the first one to get one. It's a no-brainer. But then the second ones off the rank are a different story, and we've had it on pretty good authority that once we've got our water sorted out here in the Waikato, we're the next one to have a look at, because we've been working so well together. So I wanted to put that out there going forward. As a as we go through these changes, and I know there's been a lot of angst out there in the community and staff and councillors, is what does local government look like when you're sort of handing over your three waters to someone else? That's a really, really big thing. It didn't really matter if you stayed status quo and did it on your own. There is no status quo. Status quo is gone. You are still going to be controlled by ComCom and Te Mata Otoi. They are going to be the dictators and tell you which way you're going, where your pricing's at, no matter which way you go at. At some point, and it's never been mentioned, and it doesn't matter which entity you talk to, there's no talk of price harmonisation, and that's a great thing. And we've been able to say that with our communities, because that's what they worry about, is they're going to fund somebody else. But if you actually look at the figures, and we looked at the figures to see what does price harmonisation look like, because ultimately I think that's going to happen. It happened up in Auckland with Watercare. It started off with two entities. Within a year, it became one entity, and within 3 years, it became price harmonisation. That's when our ratepayers are really going to benefit. So we looked at the facts and figures, as did other councils, and it was really close. And if we looked at year 1 to year 10, it was like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? But we made the decisions collectively as mayors around the Waikato. We always looked at the end game, and we looked at what does 30 years look like, because no one's ever built a wastewater plant or a water plant or put a pipe in the ground thinking it's only going to last 10 years. So that's the lens that we put over it, even though the legislation says look at year 1 to 10 of your LTP to see what that looks like. Weirdest part is having all this set up in place, ready to rock and roll before even legislation's set in place, which is really bizarre that they can do that. Yet when you go and ask them about consultation, they say, no, you don't have to consult, but the law says that we do. Hence why we went out and did consultation. Across the Waikato, submissions were light. And I think that's just because people are a little bit over this whole three waters conversation. And so submissions for all of the councils were a very, very low percentage, with most of the submissions saying, you guys know best, make the decision, get on with it. Then obviously you had the submissions that were maybe from sovereign citizens or anti-fluorides, or people that were fearing that just because you go into something like that, you're going to end up with fluoride in your water, which we all know is not quite the case. Someone else will dictate to us. So you've got lots of options on the table. Well, you've got one in your paper, I think, but you as elected members have got lots of options up your sleeve. And one that Taupo, and this is what we talked about with, mentioned it yesterday at our Waikato Waters meeting, was that potentially that's an option for you guys, is to run your own establishment in the interim and signal that you're going to have another look in a year or two, possibly 2 years, even 3 years, and signal that you're going to join an entity. And that could be still the entity that's in your paper, or it could be that to join the Waikato Waters done well. And I only say that, and that's not because there's two reasons that I say that. One is obviously as the chair of the Mayoral Forum and chair of a local government steering group that has been working hard on the RMA reform for the last 4 years and getting an inside information of what that looks like. That's going to be a huge change, and there's some huge changes coming. And one of those changes is how we do our planning as a region. And it gets harder if we're crossing regions. So it'd be easier if we're all one region. I'd love it if we were one region. And particularly for us when we're doing that, particularly as being very, very close neighbours, is that you can share resources, i.e. water plants, pipes and whatnot. I have spoken to, and it's public now, and it was no secret that I tried to work with a previous mayor on a block of land in Turua to go halves as a partnership between TCDC and HTC and do the subdivision ourselves, like we've done in Ngatea, to create some more space. But obviously at that stage, it was about who got the ratepayers, where I don't think our ratepayers really care where they pay their rates. Some of our ratepayers live and work in different areas or cross the boundary. We have now got 140 odd sections that are going to come onto the market in Turua, which will help give Thames some growth, which is lacking, and you need growth out that other side. Both those areas, when we designed our wastewater plant, is that we could pump, and we will be pumping from Turua, Kirapahi, Ngatea into that one pond, and we can do the same if we come up the other side. And that just makes it easier in that Waikato entity stuff going forward when we're planning for growth and going forward. So I just wanted to put that out there. So that's my bit from the chair of the Mayoral Forum, as the mayor of the Hauraki. It would be awesome to be partners with you guys. We've partnered on many a thing, whether it be roading, whether it be waste. Not all of it's always gone to plan, but I'd like to have a good closing working relationship. And as a ratepayer, I think you know where my voice is as a ratepayer. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Toby, thank
And
you.
I'm here for any questions if there's time allowed.
So I'll open up to councillors. Councillors, any questions of Toby at this stage? I have one, but we'll start with Terry. Thanks.
Yeah, morning, Toby. Thanks for coming along.
That's right.
Nice to have you here. Just looking at your decisions you made around your Water's Done Well group, was that through due diligence? You did some numbers and sat down with some people and listened to the people?
Yep. So we did our own numbers as well as the numbers that were getting provided to us. So we spent a lot of time and invested a bit of money along with Matamata Piako in checking those numbers to make sure they're robust. So we wanted to make sure that if we were going out with a preferred option, no matter what it was, that we could put our hand on our hats and say, these are the numbers. When the numbers came back, I will not lie, the numbers were so close it wasn't funny. But they were so close until about year 8, 9. And then it started to get, and then after year 10, when we put that lens of that 30-year, our asset management plans across it, it changed dramatically. Then when we looked at the benefits that you can get from being with any entity, didn't matter which entity, what those were. And no matter which way we looked at it, whether it was with our private company, which we use Morrison Lowe, or the entities models, they're all conservative. And we think that there's still some wriggle room in there. The big change for us, and I know nobody wants to talk about it, is that price harmonisation. Because nobody up here thinks that they want to pay for a city somewhere else. But that's not the case. When you get a larger entity, our numbers drop dramatically and become really, really affordable back to today's dollars. So in year 20 of a plan, we could be paying what we're paying today, our users paying today under price harmonisation.
Right, I accept harmonisation. It most probably will take time to work that out when you in the groups. But my head's around really the fact that you did the hard work, you did the due diligence. And I think what we're trying to say is we've done some same sort of stuff here and got some figures and talked to the group about where we've gone with it. And I think it is a long-term decision for your ratepayers. It's some of them don't kick in till later after 10 years, but they really show some great value if you pick the right person, right organisation to run with. So I just really making sure that we understand that that's some importance about doing the numbers.
100%. And for us, it was a heart and head decision. So our heart said that we could have gone alone, and we could have probably gone out and said to our ratepayers, we're sticking it to the government, we're doing our own thing, we've got the figures. We know the government probably wouldn't allow that in the long term, but we went with our head and went past the 10-year figures to really look at what does it look like for our community going forward. And the figures of going alone or not having some sort of harmonisation going forward were really scary for our ratepayers. And we know how hard it is already.
And you don't lose ownership through it, do you?
No, we are all shareholders. The one thing about the 7 councils, and because I include Taupo because they're still being part of the conversation, is that it doesn't matter whether you're the biggest player in the game or the smallest player of the game. There is no one deciding vote in it. So the little people can't. I shouldn't say the little people. The smaller councils can't group together and kick out a large council or dictate, and neither can the large council do the same. So the way that the shareholding's done is fair. So everyone's got a share. Everyone's got skin in the games. So the community is still a shareholder in the entity going forward, and the votes around the table are equal.
Right. Thank you.
Toby, any other questions, councillors?
Just on that, number-wise, what's the population of your district council?
Population is currently sitting at about 22,776 and growing. So we've got some rather large developers, obviously with a racecourse. We've got another large developer in Waihi. We've got another large developer in Turua, who Turua's this is their first one, and they've come from the city. They've changed from wanting to do it with the city, us city, to come to Hauraki. And then I just met with another developer who's very keen on a mini Pocono out Mangatarata way.
Sure, but they're all dreams. How?
No, they're
Well, can I ask you another question?
No. I'm going to answer your question. The three of those are already in for resource consent and going through the process.
Okay. How many absentee owners do you have as ratepayers?
We still have a fair bit of absentee owners over in Whakatoa, but whether you're an absentee owner or an owner, you're still a ratepayer in that district. Whether you live and breathe there every single day or own the house, you're still part of that community.
I understand that.
I'm an absentee ratepayer because I live 6 to 7 days a week in Hauraki, but I own 2 properties in your district. Doesn't mean I'm not part of the Coromandel community.
Thanks, Toby. John Morrissey, please.
Thanks, Toby, for taking time out of your day to come along here. And yes, you will always be a member of the Coromandel community. Hey, listen, I just want to be clear. The waters are a little muddied at the moment, Toby, with what's happening. Do you think that if by holding off, perhaps doing an in-house business unit and reviewing that in 2028, the situation will be a little clearer and we will then know how the WSOs are operating?
I'm not entirely comfortable with that question and whether it's appropriate for Toby to be asked that question.
He's a man of experience with 3 hats. And if you're not comfortable answering that, Toby.
I'll just say that that's what Taupo have done, and it's working for them.
Okay. And if this council decides to have an in-house business unit, it could work the same as Taupo and reap the benefits of that by being part of a WSO that before becoming part of a WSO, Tony?
You could do that with any entity. The current, I mean, for anybody that's going into it, there's always going to be a transition period, and your staff are going to be working in your area to start with. So not much of that will change. Different councils up and down the country have different ways of dealing with it. Some are contracted out. Some are business units that are technically CCOs, but just don't fall under the CCO banner. But they're a workforce on their own with their own budgets and got to point back and try and make a profit back to the council. So it's so that any option can work.
We'll go Delhi. Sorry, Delhi. Thank you.
So Toby, in the example of Taupo, who are sort of keeping their options open and having some perceived benefits from sort of being in the tent but not fully signed up, does that mean, my concern would be for someone like Taupo, is that you're not at the negotiating table from day one. You're not representing your local iwi's interests, and you're not setting the terms and conditions of that, and then you become Johnny come lately to something that's already established. What's your take on that?
The way that iwi's a big player. As much as government doesn't want or doesn't care about any co-governance, you've still got relationships with your own iwi on the ground, and that will never ever change. And as much as it doesn't matter which government comes in, you're still going to have to work with iwi somewhere along the lines to get something across the line. Their iwi is part of the chairs group that we've been dealing with and going for that. So we're including iwi into those discussions. Theirs is probably a political decision of where they currently sit now, but even though that they're not opting in straight away, they've left that cab in there, and so they've been part of helping design the shareholders agreement. They've been part of the process around what does it look like getting a board and establishment board up and running. So they've been part of that process, and there's and anybody that was sort of in the tent somewhere along the lines would still be part of that process. The shareholders agreement is done in a way that anybody can opt in at any stage and be part of the family, and we've done that to ensure that we can seamlessly join up entity Waikato Water's done well with Hamilton Waikato at some point, because we know that that is an end game where all of us agree that at some point that's where we're going to end up, or want to end up. But there's they've got different challenges at the moment that they need to work through, and they're working through those. And the rest in a more rural type environment, which makes that grouping a little bit more palatable at this stage. But at some point, once it's all done and dusted and you've gone through the motions and stuff, it'll be quite a seamless process, I would imagine, to link the two together, or any other entities together.
Thanks, Toby. Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time, Mr. Double ratepayer and absentee ratepayer, and you're wearing a lot of hats. So, but thank you for your time and your contribution. And thank you. All right, we don't have any other public forum, do we? Okay,
But we do need a mover and second.
mover in a second,
Move.
please. Rekka and Dally, please. All those in favour? Thank you. Do we have any late urgent items? There being none, we'll move to conflicts of interest. Any conflicts of interest to declare around the table? Dally, please.
I will be leaving the chambers for the item excluded PX on water services.
Thank you, Nellie. Appreciate that. It's noted. We'll go to minutes for confirmation, item 1.6, please. Which is page 3.
We will share the screen as well.
Thank you.
And through the chair, I'd just like to note that we sent through the 7th of May Mercury Bay Community Board minutes last night, which were omitted.
Sorry. So we want to try and move these through these in the most efficient way possible. So what I'd like to do is, taking into account what Ari has just said about Mercury Bay being included, and not on page 4, but included separately, I'd like to take these as a block if we can. So thank you, Terry. Have I got a seconder for those? John Grant, please. So we are working on items 1 to receive, 2 the community board minutes, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Are you happy to move in a seconder for those, John Grant? All right, all those in favour? Thank you, team. Okay. We'll go to external minutes for confirmation, please. Item 1.7.
Can I just check, Lynn, because we've just moved 1 to 8, but presumably we also moved 9
Oh,
because we
thank you.
added a third one in.
Thank you for that. So where does that leave us with numbers? So do we just need to
9.
note that we've included? So, okay. Subject to that, Mr. Move, you're okay with that? Mr. Seconder, thank you. We'll put that again. All those in favour? Thank you. Done. Thank you, Robin. Appreciate it. Okay, external minutes for confirmation. Let me get to the right page. Sorry?
They're for receiving.
For receiving, sorry. Page 59.
Happy to move.
Thank you, John. Martin Rodley seconding. Thank you. So these are for receiving. So all those in favour? Thank you. Workshop notes for receiving, page item 1.8, page 65. Thank you. Second, all those in favour? Thank you. We're going straight to item 2.1, adoption of the annual plan. Welcome, team. Thank you. Just get my notes up in front of me. So what I'd like to do is I'll move the adoption, to receive the adoption, item 1. Could I get a seconder for that, please, Delhi? So we're just receiving. All those in favour? Thank you. And then we'll open it up, hand over to the team, open it up for a summary on the report, and we're in your hands. Thank you.
It's Maria kia koutou. I'll keep this brief. You've got quite a few things on the agenda today. The last time we met on this particular matter was 20th of May, when you considered the feedback we received on our Been There, Done That consultation campaign. That was, in effect, the last major decision that needed to be made before the annual plan could be adopted. You made that decision to proceed with the preferred option, which was option 1, and subsequently directed staff to go away and prepare the annual plan based on the budget decisions that had been made to date. We have now done that, and the report with you now is simply to adopt that plan and confirm that it reflects all the decisions you've made to date. So unless Hayden has anything to add, I'll take the report as read and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Kath.
None further to add.
Hayden?
Nothing further to add.
Okay, Madeline? All right, thank you. So we'll open it up for discussion and any questions that councillors might have for adoption of the annual plan. Peter, please go ahead.
If we go to the annual plan document on page 75, at the bottom of page 75, we talk about the average rate increase, things that we've done to achieve that. In the beginning of page 76, we actually say that it makes it challenging for us to stay within the rate increase limits indicated by our LTP plan if ongoing funding options are not available. Can you just add a bit more colour to that for me, please?
I guess that refers to this year, we've used retained earnings. So if they're not available moving forward, then, that would be challenging. Yeah, it would add challenges next year. Yeah, because they won't be, there's potential that they're not available.
So I suppose I'm questioning how big that challenge is going to be from what we know currently.
Based on our current monthly results, our current financial sort of results, it looks like we will be adding to retained earnings this year. But until, we do the final year end wash ups and that, it's, it's not guaranteed. But yes, I guess the issue is that we've dropped in from memory about I think it's 2.6 million of retained earnings. So if they're not available next year, then that's a funding gap that has to be found.
Peter, does that help to throw some light on your question? Sure. Okay, thank you. Councillors, any other questions? John Grant, please.
Thanks. If we can just go to page 94, and just looking at the financials, I see the projections in there for the rates movement between the long-term plan and the annual plan. Should that not be 7.7% just between the 108 and the 117?
The 7.7 is done on growth, so it's divided by the number of properties, whereas this is over the total amounts. So there's a slight difference here when we calculate the average rates increase. We take the current ratepayers and then add on what we expect in terms of growth, and then divide that by the amount of rates that we're going to collect. So they're kind of two different calculations.
The two would correlate somehow.
No, because they're sort of two different. With the growth, you get more properties obviously come on each year, so rates will naturally
Gotcha.
increase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Hayden. All right, team, thank you. So there being no more questions, I'll put the vote. So we need a mover and a seconder, please, to adopt.
I'm happy to move.
Thank you, John. The seconder? Sorry.
Can I just add, in moving this, that I'd like to do so with the thanks to staff for the effort and a congratulations on the clarity of the document that has been prepared. I think it's an excellent document. So again, thank you for the efforts.
Thank you, John Grant. And I think, that reflects what the rest of us are feeling. Good work. And thanks, Madeline. Thanks, Kath. Thanks, Hayden. I know you were the drivers behind this, and it's very much appreciated by the governance team. So we'll put that subject to those notes from Councillor Grant. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you. Well done, team. Awesome. Do we ask you not to go away because of it's just Hayden? It's Hayden on the race. You're in the hot seat, Hayden. So, we'll get a mover and a seconder, please, just to receive. Delhi, seconder. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Hayden, over to you.
Yeah, I'll take the report as read. The basic sort of gist of this report is this is the sort of legal sort of or the legal way of setting out the setting of the rates. So basically it takes all of our rates from our annual plan and it puts it into a document to basically then go and set them for the 25-26 year.
Thanks, Hayden.
Yeah.
Aileen, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so what you have in front of you here is a very large number of rates. It's consequential on the decision you've just made. So you've just adopted the annual plan. These flow directly out of that decision you've just made. So it is consequential. And the other point being that we also have had this legally reviewed because there's a lot of devil in the detail here, and it's important that it is absolutely legally correct. So that's been done. Thank you.
Thanks, Aileen. That's a big help and certainly helps us to understand how the annual plan and the rate setting connect together. All right, can I get a mover and a seconder, please, for the item 2, the setting of the rates?
May I?
Sure, go ahead.
Raise a question. There have been, and I'm sure you've been looped in, some concerns from the ratepayer group out at Matarangi around the setup of the way that their unmetered sites are being rated. And there's been a flurry of emails over the last couple of days. And for my own clarity, I still am unclear around the fairness of the way that is established. And I just wonder if you could talk to that for me, please. You might want to ask Peter.
I've seen some of the emails. I might pass it to Peter because he'll articulate it better than I.
Yeah, so just to the point that Councillor Recker has raised, the way that rates are set is there's effectively a process that's followed where council establishes the budget requirement, and that's going through all of the expenditure line items, the additional costs that have been added in, which you all have through the course of this annual plan identified as a lot of those additional costs were coming in the water space. The expected level of revenue from those volumetric sources and fees and charges is then forecast and taken off that expenditure amount as the rates revenue requirement. That rates revenue requirement is then distributed based on the basis that has been set in your rating fizz, and for water supply that has generally been a 0.5 differential on those Properties that are connected and metered, it's a differential of 1 for properties that are connected and unmetered. And so the increase that you have seen in the water space is a consequence of those rising costs sitting within the water space. And the amount that we increase that forecast revenue is only increased generally by CPI, which obviously hasn't kept or hasn't moved at the same level as council's costs. To change those differentials, that's obviously something that council can look at going through a process and a consultation if that change is significant. In terms of looking at it at the moment, there needs to be consistency with the rating fizz that is in the annual plan you've just adopted. So there probably isn't the scope to be looking at it right now. But if that 0.5 differential and differential of 1 for the unmetered is considered unfair, then that can be looked at in time. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it answers my question. So that differential is set across the district for any unmetered sites?
Yes, so water supply is rated at a district level. It's not differentiated by community. We do have differentials for stormwater by area or by community, but for water supply, it's consistent across the district.
Okay, thank you. That's
Sorry,
for now.
Kerry,
Thanks.
before we go to you, Deli, does that answer your, because I know both yourself and Rika had questions around that. Does that help you to understand? I'm thinking just in terms of the discussion that you go back and have with your Matarangi.
I think what is happening, particularly with Matarangi, is that you have a community who are seeing, I think it's $300 plus basic rate. There are a lot of part-time residents in that community. Their water consumption is quite low, and they're saying if this is the case, then we want meters now. Okay. So they're not, thank you, Peter, for the explanation. They're not going to be happy with that explanation. I understand your position as a staff member and respect that, but they're mildly horrified by the jump in that water services charge.
Thanks, Telly. So just in terms of where we are now, there isn't anything that we can do in terms of this resolution, but it's been flagged very clearly as something that we can have further discussions on.
Process that, sorry, if I may.
Go ahead. Sorry, Terry, we'll just finish this.
It's on the same subject, so carry on.
Oh, you go.
Well, mine's subject's very much the same, and I've had a meeting with Peter this morning to talk about it, and it is a next LTP discussion, but the jump is quite large, and our concern is that we've had meters sitting in a shed for 3 years, and they're going to get pinged with $300 extra in their water rate. So we're asking for that job to get done, and this will help it if it gets done. So, but disappointed.
And which is an unfair to land back on you, Hayden. I'm fully aware of that, but this is the forum at which councillors flag these things, and the message has been heard, I'm sure. So it's in progress. Rick, are you okay with that now?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I'd say I'm okay. It is unfair.
Yeah.
And it's something that, it's been flagged. It's really unfortunate that we've had water meters sitting in a shed for however long. And for anybody that's around this table, next time round, that those water meters need to get installed, and that needs to be a priority.
Thank you. Deli, go ahead.
Yeah, you just stole my thunder. If we do have meters, and particularly in these communities where they may only use their property for a few weeks of the year, they're asking, can we fast track the water meters so that it is fair to those people? They're quite happy to pay very high rates to own properties on the eastern seaboard, particularly our Matarangis and our Hahais, but they're not seeing that large charge as being equitable. But the action perhaps it's not Hayden's problem this morning, but the action perhaps is to look at how quickly we can get the meters rolled out.
Thank you. Thank you. John Grant.
Just the final Mercury Bay version of the story, I guess. But I do remember the discussions that we had on this at the time, that we were looking at the setting of rates and the impact of the rollout in Mercury Bay, particularly around the Whitianga area, of water meters and what impact it would have on the fact that we're charging almost an average amount for those that are non-metered. And, I remember that quite well in those days, because we were getting a lot of feedback from people on those particular issues. And I think what this highlights is that having two different structures is an uncomfortable thing to have. And the sooner that we can move in as many locations as we can to water metered, I think it'll bring about the fairness and resolve the issue. And I'm not quite sure what other way we can do it other than that. So that would have my full support. And perhaps as an action from this, rather than just some words, that if we could ask staff to put this on the agenda for a further discussion, so that we can actually look at perhaps a paper on this as to how we could accelerate that program to be able to go back to ratepayers who are concerned about it with a specific answer.
Thanks, John. I'm not sure that I'm that comfortable with it being an action on this agenda item, but I can certainly ask Aileen that her and her team have noted that from today's discussion. But certainly, yeah, thank you, John. But I don't think it's appropriate to have it on this agenda item. So if we come back to this agenda item and we move past that, it's certainly been flagged. All right, so can I go back to, did we get a mover and a seconder for this? We didn't, did we? All right, John.
Sorry, and just one other question in regard to this, and it's one that I almost certainly know the answer to, but I will ask it just for the sake of being clear. All of the data that is in here is consistent with what we have previously discussed and agreed to. So this is just formalising it.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Thank you. All right. Was that you also moving the?
Happy to move.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Delhi, all those in favour? Thanks, team. Right. Much appreciated. All right. Thanks, Hayden. Okay. I'm hearing that. It's tempting. I think it's a bit early. All right. So we're going to go to item 2.3, local water done well, future water service delivery. And we're going a little bit early, which is good. We're ahead of the game. So I'm going to move item 1, that we receive the local waters done well before we open it up to the material second. So we'll just wait till the team to get settled, and we're just receiving at this stage. So. Right, welcome everybody. Do you have a question, John? Thank you for taking a second.
Do we
have?
Sorry, do we need to have a bit more air movement in here? It's getting.
We want to do that. We can do that. All right. So all those in favour to receive the report?
Aye.
Second. Thank you. All
I'd
right,
like
let's get
to
some air in here.
I'd like to put a motion on the floor, please, Your Worship. That is that we move option 1, the recommendation that councillors were supplied with via email. So I'm moving option 1 with the recommendation.
Point of order. I believe we've already circulated a motion and believe that needs to be put, and then an amendment can be put if necessary.
Do we need to get our guests to speak to the report first before we move anything?
So what we can do is we have an option or a motion that has been proposed by Councillor Morrissey. We can receive that option, which has all been circulated. Can we get that up on the screen? And then we can open it up to the team for discussion, for them to present their report and have discussion on that. But I'm happy to receive the motion as proposed by Councillor Morrissey and then open it up to the team for the.
I will need a seconder.
This has been circulated to councillors, but we want to bring it up on the screen as well.
I just want to check with Ariana what the tikanga is around this, and I would have thought that speaking to the report first would have been the right protocol.
Correct. Yeah, it would have been better that we receive the report, then give staff the opportunity to present the report, and then you can ask questions before we get into debate.
I'm happy to be guided by governance, but I believe that regardless of which option you take, the talk from staff is going to be the same. I just really would appreciate that motion being put to the council right now and see if somebody's prepared to second it.
All right, so we have, if we look at page 153 in our agendas, we have quite clearly stated in the agenda that we've got options 1 and 2. What's being proposed by Councillor Morrissey, as far as I understand it, is a resolution around option 1, and the proposal on page 149 is a resolution around option 2. So by accepting the resolution as proposed by Councillor Morrissey, we are covering exactly what the staff have proposed in page 153, which is 2 options for council to consider. That's my understanding. If you look there, you'll see options 1 and 2.
I'm still very, very uncomfortable and would like that noted that we are not following the protocol of receiving the paper and allowing the staff to speak to the paper. And no disrespect, John, the resolutions, I believe, should come later.
Absolutely. And I have raised a point of order as well, which has not been ruled on by the chair. So.
Just in regards to your point of order, we have a staff recommendation. It's not a motion. It's just a staff recommendation.
Okay, so
we need to follow protocols, and that's
correct. Correct.
Otherwise, we're going to end up with a debate before we actually hear from people.
We'll rule on the point of order, which is to receive the staff report and then open up for discussion. Is that what your point of order is, Councillor? Okay.
I'm happy to accept that.
All right. Thank you. And I'll be guided by governance on that. I'm happy to do that. Okay. So we've received the report. We're opening that up for discussion. And thank you, Mo, Ian, Mike and Nick for your presence here today and for the work that you've done so far. We'll open it up to you to present.
Yeah, Morena, Your Worship and councillors. Before we start, I'll introduce our team today. So I've got Ian Morton here from M Consulting, and we've also got Nick Davis and Mike Chatley from Martin Jenkins, all of whom have been helping us with our local water Dunwell future service delivery model study. On behalf of our team, I would also like to acknowledge the work done by the Council's local water Dunwell working group, comprised of elected members, staff, and consultants, in relation to future water services delivery for the Thames-Coromandel district. Local water Dunwell is the government's approach to address long-standing water infrastructure challenges across the country. The legislative requirements to comply with the government's directive has been covered in previous reports to council, so I will not be repeating them today, but they're covered in the report. The key statutory requirement for Council to note is the need to submit a water services delivery plan to the Department of Internal Affairs by the 2nd of September 2025. The water services delivery plan is required to state the Council's proposed future water services delivery model and a start date. The purpose of the local water done well report in front of you today is to make a decision on the future water services delivery model for the Thames-Coromandel district. This is a very significant decision for Council. Following all the work that has been completed, the overall recommendation of the report is to form a joint sub-regional water services organisation made up of Thames-Coromandel District Council, Tauranga City Council and Western Bay of Plenty District Council commencing 1 July 2027. The staff report contains 2 attachments. Attachment A is the Martin Jenkins report on Council's local water done well study, and attachment B is a submission from Ngāti Hei requesting that Council continues to deliver water services through an in-house business unit. Under item 3 of the report, there are several recommendations for Council to consider, debate and decide. I will now hand over to Ian Morton to take us through the local water done well journey of how we got to this point, and thereafter Martin Jenkins will take us through their analysis and recommendations on Council's future water services delivery model. Over to you, Ian. Thank you.
Kia ora, Mayor, Councillors. Thank you so much for your time today. I'll just give a brief recap on the journey that we've been on local water done well. The legislation for local water done well was released in mid-2024. Early on, we commissioned a piece of work to assess what the current state analysis was for Thames-Coromandel, and that was conducted and presented to Council in September. What that identified was that TCDC were in a very good position. We had a good asset base, we had really good debt levels, and we had a really robust LTP plan that met the legislation. That set us in a really good position, and at that point in time, councillors asked us to keep all options open and investigate all options. So staff have proceeded on that basis to investigate all options available to us. In late 2024, we agreed a set of strategic objectives that would meet the community needs. And at that point in time, 2 options were discounted, and that was around community trust options, which didn't really provide any real benefits to the community. So we discounted 2 of those options, and were remaining 2 options that were left open to us. One was a joint water service organisation, and the other option was an internal business unit. In early 2025, we set up the Local Water Done Well Working Group, and that composed elected members, the Mayor, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Grant, as well as consultants and the CEO. And that's been fundamental in driving and providing advice to the team as we've proceeded, at the same time as obviously coming back to councils for any key decisions. In early 2025, we also carried out some detailed analysis of the options that were available, and that analysis was then fed into a community consultation decision where we went out to the community with 2 options: a preferred option on a joint water service organisation and an alternative option on an internal business unit. We received significant responses to that submission, with 51% requesting a joint water service organisation and 46% an internal business unit. At that point in time, also submitters noted 69% said their key concern going forward was affordability, and that was a clear message back to council. Since then, we've also engaged with sub-regional partners to understand where they are in the process, and how TCDC would actually engage with them on an ongoing basis, and that's captured within the analysis report. We also carried out iwi engagement, and obviously we've attached the Ngāti Hei letter to the report itself. A lot of other iwi engagement was more informal feedback that we received. And I will note that there's a range of views that we received from iwi. One iwi strongly supported a joint water service organisation on the basis that they're already involved with water care and that process through water care, so they could see the strong advantages of a joint water service organisation. So there was a range of views provided back by iwi through those discussions. Over this period of time, we've held 4 workshops with councillors. We've completed technical due diligence with Becca, carrying out technical reviews on our behalf. And obviously, we've had Martin Jenkins supporting us all the way through as well. It's been a really robust process to get to this point, and we realise this is a really big decision for councillors. Following today's discussion, we will take the direction from council and then we will feed that into a water service delivery plan and prepare an implementation plan and come back to council for future decision making. I'll just hand over to Martin Jenkins, who'll provide a summary on the analysis that's been completed and the results of that analysis.
Thank you, Ian. Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Mayor and councillors, for giving us the opportunity to be in person to attend this meeting today. As Ian said, we have been on a journey with you supporting the analysis of future service delivery arrangements, and I do consider this has been a thorough process, and as Ian said, you've through that process kicked the tyres on all of the available service delivery options that are available to the council under Local Water Done Well. You've had 3 reports in that time from us, and we've also attended 4 workshops over the last 12 months. And our first report in July last year looked at the viability and sustainability of your current services. And it did highlight that the council is in a relatively strong position, having done a good job of investing in improving drinking water services in particular, but it also highlighted some significant challenges in undertaking the investment that is expected to be required over the next 30 years based on your infrastructure strategy, whilst maintaining affordable services and continuing to meet the needs to maintain assets, meet regulatory requirements and provide for growth. Our December report considered the full range of service delivery options available to council, and as Ian mentioned, recommended discounting several options, being a standalone water services organisation and community trust-owned water services organisation. So following that process of narrowing the options, the subsequent analysis is focused at 2 levels. One is, and the primary decision before you today, is the choice between keeping services in-house within council and or setting up a joint water services organisation. And as we noted in that pre-Christmas advice, when you look in your neighbouring regions, there are several different options that you could consider as part of that, and we recommended at that point that you keep your options open and explore those in detail. Just before we sort of go on to the sort of the substance of that analysis, it's already been mentioned this morning that keeping services in-house is not the sort of same thing as the status quo. Whatever option you take forward today, all water services providers, whether that be councils delivering services in-house or new boards responsible for water services organisations, will need to operate under a significantly different operating and regulatory environment. So the legislation currently before the Finance and Expenditure Committee, which is expected to be reported back in the coming weeks and enacted in this calendar year, will bring significantly new planning, reporting and audit requirements. It will require a separation financially of water services from other current council activities, and it will involve the introduction of economic regulation by the Commerce Commission, which, as has been previously mentioned this morning, will start to constrain quite significantly the freedom of choice that councils have, particularly around regulatory compliance. So I think those changes provide an important backdrop to the options analysis. So Mike, if you go to the next slide, thank you. So turning to, I guess, the primary decision, which is that choice between an internal water services unit and a joint water services organisation. I want to be very clear at the outset that both options in our assessment meet the core objectives. And you will recall that we developed these strategic objectives with you in discussion through through the previous council workshops, and we've been using these consistently through this process. And these objectives are very, very similar to what other councils have been considering as they've gone through their decision-making process. In terms of in-house delivery, that would obviously see council retain local control over assets and responsibility for decision-making, but as I mentioned, with an increasingly constrained decision-making framework as the result of those new regulatory requirements. This option is expected to be more expensive than if council were to join a water services organisation, with benefits estimated at about $500 to $600 per connection in relative terms. And importantly, we see those financial benefits increasing beyond year 10 as the Joint Water Services Organisation has the greater financial capacity and greater ability to generate efficiencies, but also importantly, because in terms of the investment that you currently have planned beyond years 11 and through to year 30 in your plan, that would drive projections of increased borrowing and higher cost if you retained those services in-house. As I mentioned, a joint water services organisation is expected to deliver that greater financial capacity to invest, to improve asset condition, service levels and resilience of infrastructure and deliver cost savings for consumers. The model is also expected to sort of mitigate risks that we expect council will face around continuity of service, including retention and attraction of staff. And they are risks that we consider would be amplified with the establishment of 3 much larger water services organisations being set up in the regions. There are, of course, well recognised risks associated with joint water services organisation option. These risks include the potential loss of control and influence for council, iwi and individual communities, the loss of integration with other closely related council functions, including land use and transport planning, and roading maintenance and investment, and reduction in critical mass of council with potential for the transition to disrupt council operations. So in summary, there are risks with both options, with the key risks highlighted on page 21 of our report. What we would say, I guess, about those risks is that they are not deterministic, so they're not a fait accompli, and various opportunities exist to manage and mitigate those risks. And in our assessment, the risks associated with the Joint Water Services Organisation are easiest to manage through a close involvement and equal participation in the design, establishment and transition planning for a new organisation. I won't dwell on this slide, but it's here in case there's questions about this. So as you're aware, we have undertaken quite detailed modelling and assessment of the different options. In saying that, there has been different modelling exercises conducted for each of the different sub-regional groupings. The general point here is that we expect any of the joint water services organisations to, over time, generate benefits relative to in-house delivery as a result of their greater financial capacity, their greater ability to achieve efficiencies associated with asset management and procurement. So there are some relative differences on this slide, but I think it should be recognised as well that there are some uncertainty associated with the different modelling exercises. We are confident that in terms of the comparisons there of options 1 and 2A, they've been done on a consistent basis. We have looked as closely as we can at the financial assessment for the other 2 options, but there is some greater uncertainty there in terms of the comparability, but I don't think we should lose sight of the point that any of those options is likely to generate benefits relative to in-house. So we
Nick,
have undertaken the same analysis.
Sorry, Nick, did you? I'm just wondering if we should pause there momentarily just to see if there are any questions at this stage, or we'll just carry on and work through. Okay. Over to you, Nick.
Yep. Thank you. So as following your decision to consult on a preferred option of establishing a joint water services organisation and your instruction to the Chief Executive to further explore these 3 sub-regional options in particular, we have undertaken a sort of a finer grain of analysis around the relative differences between each of them. And so this slide, which summarises the assessment in our report, presents that sort of that relative picture. Again, just as with the assessment of in-house delivery and joint water services organisation, we would say that all 3 of these options are likely to meet your strategic objectives. And so it's a relative assessment that is presented here. And there are some similarities and sort of differences. So I will just draw your attention in particular to some of the key differences. So obviously with the Bay of Plenty option, which would involve joining with Tauranga and Western Bay District, and the Hamilton City and Waikato District option, you're talking about combining with 2 quite significant cities with relatively dense urban networks. And in our assessment of the evidence, it is important to have large urban centres with dense networks in terms of the ability to kind of generate economic efficiency. Not to say that there wouldn't be economic efficiency also with the Waikato's water option, but that is a difference between those 2 options. Waikato Water, obviously you're looking at a grouping of in some ways more similar in terms of scale councils, but smaller councils there. There are also some differences in terms of the modelled affordability. So I guess one of the features is that Thames-Coromandel District starts with comparatively low charges per connection, whereas there is some variation across the group. So our assessment, and it is a finely balanced assessment, is that 2A measures up in terms of the relatively stronger in terms of the potential to extract those benefits and those efficiencies. Mike, if you could go to the next slide. We've also looked at a number of other considerations that we believe are important when you're considering not so much the choice between water services delivery options, but the choice between the different potential groupings. So this analysis has considered a wider range of considerations We've looked at similarities and differences in terms of communities of interest. We've considered regulatory considerations, particularly given that some of the options involve splitting the district across several two regional councils. We've looked at economies of scale and cost efficiency differences, iwi considerations, starting positions in terms of current service levels, asset condition and debt, the ease of transition and implementation, as well as the strength of relationships. These assessments are inherently subjective in nature. Where possible, they've been based on the available evidence, but they've also been informed by discussions with council officers and dialogue with between elected members as well. And we've worked closely with your working group to test this assessment as we've gone. So I've already mentioned that the Hamilton, Waikato and the Tauranga models involve larger, denser networks and populations. TCDC also shares similar coastal topography and catchments and has similar challenges around small coastal communities, managing seasonal peaks and common regulatory challenges. Tauranga Hamilton, obviously they're focused on growth and growth is expected to be a significant feature of parts of their investment, and that does raise considerations around investment prioritisation, but we'd also note that growth is also a feature of Waikato water grouping and in particular around Waipa. And the Bay of Plenty option we consider as more homogenous in terms of starting asset condition, with industry experts viewing Tauranga as one of the country's better water managers. Through the potential partner engagement, there's been very positive engagement with all three groups. Probably there's a lot of words on this slide. It's just a replication of one of the slides in the full report. Probably the key thing to draw your attention to here is that both Waikato Water councils and the Hamilton and Waikato districts are moving very swiftly to establish a CCO by the 1st of July 2025. With a go live date of 1st of July 2026. In Waikato Water case, that's for the first tranche of councils. So they are well down the path in terms of establishing the foundational documents that would support these entities, as well as establishment board appointment processes and discussing shareholder expectations. So they are, as has already been observed, at the forefront across the country in terms of the level of development of those proposals. Both options are quite clear in the heads of agreement in terms of the Waikato Water model and in terms of the record of agreement between Hamilton City and Waikato District around the process that would be involved in another council joining as a shareholder post-establishment. So they require proposals to be developed and presented to the boards of the organisations in the first instance, with the shareholder councils ultimately being the decision makers around a council joining. Ian, is there anything further you want to say on the partner engagement?
Probably just two points to add. So obviously there was a note about Entity B, which was the previous water reform, which was basically Bay of Plenty, Waikato, and the top of horizons. I think over time, as noted, there will be a move towards a larger amalgamation around all of them. So I suppose now the question is, who do you join now? And then at some point in time, that may change. And also just the discussion around metering. Obviously, any of the water service organisations will have more capacity and capability to bring forward projects. So, those types of discussions where you say, actually, there's a project that's really important to us, actually the ability to bring forward projects, you'll have more capability and capacity within a water service organisation.
Thank you. So this is the final slide. So we've summarised here the assessment of each of the key advantages and disadvantages of each of the options. I've broadly touched on those as I've been speaking. We've said all along that this is a very difficult decision to make. There are trade-offs between the strategic objectives that you have, and so reasonable people can come to different conclusions around the preferred option. So what we've done here is we've summarised the basis in which you might adopt a preference in terms of the future service delivery arrangements. In terms of option 1, internal water services unit, obviously that involves the lease change to the status quo, and you could proceed with that option if you're confident it can meet the new local water done well requirements in the short and the long term, and that you're willing to retain operational and financial responsibility for water services, and if you want to preserve future options. With that preserving future options aspect, obviously that goes hand in hand with potentially kind of giving up the opportunity to shape an organisation from the beginning. So there's a bit of a trade-off there. In terms of the other options, as we've said, we believe that each of those joint water services organisation options, if you take a long-term perspective, offer some advantages relative to the status quo, but option 2A in our assessment comes out as relatively preferred against the criteria that we've discussed.
Mike, anything to add? Sorry, Aileen, did you want to?
Yep. So yeah, I just wanted to speak briefly to the recommendation. So the journey to the recommendation has definitely been a journey, and you only need to look at the working group notes that we've just received in section 1.8 of the agenda to see how long and how robust that journey has been. So I just want to say thank you to the working group, because you've put aside quite a bit of time and applied quite a lot of your headspace to the numbers and all of the different options. From our perspective, that's been utterly invaluable. And it's also been very useful to put some discipline and structure around what we've been going through over the last 6 months. So like yourselves, the staff have different views and different thoughts about what's important and what isn't. But having worked through the process and argued the various points, we have come to the recommendation as is set out in the document as an overall staff recommendation. We've done that on the basis of taking the long-term view. We've done that on the basis of understanding the conservative nature of the modelling and understanding the approach to the efficiencies. We've had a look at the overseas examples around those efficiencies, and we're satisfied that the modelling is as robust as it possibly could be with the knowledge that we have available to us at this point in time. We've taken comfort from the harmonisation approach that the TCC Western Bay model is offering to us, and our overall view is that we need to move now to actually secure the position at that table. We think we've made all the right and robust due diligence process. We've made our decisions in the right order, and this is the next logical decision to make. The Western Bay TCC option gives us a metro, which is important for the scale, as we've just heard, and it also provides us with another partner that's very similar to ourselves, and we've talked about the 22% that we would be versus Western Bay being 22%, with the large metro being a 44%, and potentially that for that to be changed as other partners come on board. Staff are also affected by this change, and the various staff have all sorts of personal views about, who's my boss going to be, where am I going to work, what does my career prospects look like. So there's all of that going on in the background. But apart from, I think we need to take care of the staff. But your view today is very much about what's in the long-term interests of the wider ratepayers. We've thought about the the reasons against the aggregation, being an early mover, but noting that that's in common with most councils in New Zealand. Uncertainty about what happens to local democracy post-aggregation. There's clearly a question that's coming, but our individual decision here today probably won't influence that. That uncertainty is going to be New Zealand-wide, and we're going to be dragged into that whether we go with business a standalone or go into an aggregated scenario. We've noted there's complications going across the boundaries, but given some of the stuff we're hearing around the traps, I think we have to think that the boundaries may not exist as they are currently anyway. So again, thinking beyond what we have now and thinking about that long-term outcome is the job for you today. We talked about the Hotel California aspect, that once you're in, you can't get out. That's, we've still got a period of time where we're not in the Hotel California, if you like. And just to preempt a question that we've already had come up, whatever decision you make today, staff can do it. So whichever way you go, we can pivot, as the word is, to address whichever option you come to today. And just to finish off, I just wanted to note this is the end of the trifecta for our significant consultation items this year, being the rating review, the annual plan, and now the waters. So it is a day of celebration because we've got to the end of those three processes, and we've done it in a reasonably joined up way. That's not to say things have gone brilliantly all the time, but we have done it pretty well. And I think we also just have to think about our community out there that have had us talking to them about an awful lot of things over the last few months. So wherever you land today, it is still a celebration about what we've achieved to date. And with that, I will hand over to yourselves to debate where we go to from here.
Thanks, Aileen. So just before we go to debate, thanks for the presentation and Aileen's notes I found particularly valuable. It's 10:30. Do we want to take a coffee break and then come back and begin our debate and our questions of the team? Because now seems like a good time to do that. Once we get the debate going, I think we'll want to keep the momentum going. So I'm going to suggest we have a cup of tea now, cup of coffee. Everyone wake up, get some air. At the moment, we've got Delly, Peter, and John Morrissey. Sorry, John first, and then Delly and Peter, because John had flagged that earlier on. And Terry, thank you. So, all right, so 15 minutes, 10:45, we come back. Thanks, team. Kia ora te whānau. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you. Right. So we're going to start with Councillor Morrissey, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move option 1, and that pertains to the resolution that we have an in-house business unit.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Rodley, happy to second? Okay.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll put the resolution up there.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, look, I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. The only certainty in life is uncertainty. And there's an abundance of that in the report we've got today, no matter which option you look at. The one certainty that isn't there is that water is going to be more expensive, whichever option we go for. That's inevitable. Everything else, I say, is uncertain. If you look at it's in the first page of the Martin Jenkins report, the part that nobody ever reads, and that's the disclaimer. The disclaimer. The report's great, guys. I'm in no way slamming you or the team that came from council, Terry and John, that helped do the work. But it is, at best, a guess, a prediction on what may or may not occur 10 years or more out. And nobody's in a position to actually ascertain that with any certainty. COVID threw a spanner in the works. Donald Trump's doing a good job at doing that. And we don't know what the global economy is going to be looking like 2 years out, let alone plus 10. So I just say to you, if councillors believe those predictions in that report, that's then no choice. WSO certainly looks like the best option. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. I can't see why we as a council would rush into the unknown and bypass doing an internal business unit while allowing things to crystallise so that we know exactly what we're dealing with in 2 or 3 years' time when the picture could look totally different. We have the opportunity, not afforded to every council, to actually take a breath and just watch and see what develops, while actually, as Mayor Adams pointed out, still being part of the group, gaining any advantages from procuring items for our own water service. So there is no rush. I can't see what the rush is. I wouldn't jump off a cliff not knowing there was a mattress down below me, and that's basically what we do if we went with the WSO. So you either buy the report and the figures that are presented in it, or you actually just be cautious. I've been sold, and I've said this before at this table, I've been sold a number of pups over my life. And this council has actually sold a beauty back in the 90s when we outsourced a lot of our services, and how we've regretted that and how we've looked at trying to bring it back in-house over the years. It wasn't a smart choice at the time. And there's no way we can go back now and get those services back in-house because we can't afford them. If we let the water services leave our organisation, 40% of our business, it is gone. It is over. We'll never get it back. It's, I heard Mayor Toby say one of the bigger decisions since 1989, and it is. It's huge. It's massive. And the ramifications will be with us forever. So I'll tell you now, if you, as I sit here today, I'll tell you now to vote for a WSO. If you want to have no control over the future destiny of this council, vote WSO. If you want to lose 40% of your business overnight, vote WSO. If you want to be a council in the future that deals with parking bylaws, dog bylaws, and pretty small mundane stuff, go for a WSO. If you want to hasten amalgamation and make TCDC ripe as a small council to be picked off in the future, go for a WSO. If you want local democracy to become less meaningful because of what we lose, you go and vote for a WSO. Sorry, I was scrawling notes everywhere while you were talking, so I'm a bit of a mess here. I'll just sort it out as I go. There is absolutely no need at this point in time to go with a WSO. Heard our speakers say today what a good financial position TCDC is in. We don't need to do it today. What I propose in the resolution, as you see, is to have our position, if we go with the internal business unit, reviewed in 2028 to see A, how we're performing, and B, how the WSOs are performing. The gate is not closed. I've heard that it will be difficult for us to perhaps attract a partner at that stage. I don't believe that's the case. I believe there's a game of politics happening out there that's trying to force us into a WSO now. And I don't want to be forced. I've actually been told that mayors and chief executives will be quite irritated if we don't do a WSO now, and that will close the door even further on us. We have CEOs, councillors and mayors come and go. We have at least one, but possibly two elections between now and 2028. And who knows who will be in charge at that stage. So I don't believe that making a decision today, even if it does hurt some feelings further afield, is going to impact us in 3 years' time. Those people may very well be gone. The thing that scares me perhaps the most, and I've heard it today and I've heard it previously, is our greater financial capacity to borrow more money. And that does really, really worry me. Yep, it certainly will make that very easy to get more, more borrowing. But who is going to pay the money back at the end of the day through that greater borrowing? None other than our ratepayers. And looking at how I've seen councils operate in the past, if the money is there, the temptation to build a gold-plated water treatment plant will be that much easier. Let me have a look. I still haven't got a clear view if we go with the WSO. I talked briefly to Ian over morning tea time. I still haven't got a clear view as to how harmonisation, when it arrives, is going to affect this council, because while it's not there at the moment, it will come. And my biggest worry is that when that comes, if Tauranga, for example, has got massive growth happening, that we could end up paying for that. So I've had the dinger. I'll let somebody else speak, and I know you all want to. But thanks for the opportunity to put the motion on the table. At least we're going to have a debate. If it fails, well, it fails, but hopefully you consider it.
Thank you, Councillor. And what I have been conscious of is that, and what I've been guided on in terms of governance, is that members can now ask questions to clarify the motion, questions of Councillor Morrissey to clarify the motion so that they fully understand what is proposed. Once everyone is clear on what is being proposed, then we can go to the debate. And I'd like to remind councillors that some clarity over whether you're speaking for or against the motion would be helpful. But I'll open it now for questions directly to Councillor Morrissey, just to clarify what is being proposed and anything that needs to be further not debated, but just discussed to make sure that everyone's clear. So, Councillor Rodley, please.
So on your recommendations, Councillor Morrissey, point number 7 talks about council assessing performance and sustainability in July 2028. Now, I'm aware that that will be only a couple of months away from a local body election. Would you consider, I mean, is that date for you locked in stone, or would you consider it being a year earlier or 6 months earlier? I know it's a small point, but
No, that date is not locked in stone. I'd be happy to go with July 30/35, but yeah, I could go early. I could go earlier.
Thank you. Terry, please.
Thank you. And I've got a question for John, just a little bit of preamble before that. And I'm speaking against your motion. Really just looking about the future proofing of infrastructure. You talk about borrowing out for long term, and obviously money today is cheaper than money out in 20 years. And we've got to think about our children's grandchildren. So when we talk about the public feedback and the affordability pressures and regulatory compliance, it does point in one direction. And my concern is that if we don't lose ownership in this deal, if we go to a WSO, but we gain capacity, and critically, we have willing partners. So if we wait, we risk being left behind and have fewer options. So my question is the Working Party's been doing this for a year. What information that you have or you have got to tell us what we missed to make your motion come on the books?
I could go through the list of points I just read out to you as to what my concerns are and where I believe matters going to go. Terry, do you want me to read those back to you?
No, well, I think that we've answered a lot of those with the working group. So I'm just looking for that extra thing that you felt was different sitting outside that.
No, you've heard what I've had to say. I've got nothing else to add there, Terry.
Nothing further to say.
Thanks,
Okay.
Terry. So what we'll do is, again, we'll just clarify if any councillors have any points that they want to raise with Councillor Morrissey, just to confirm that they've got full understanding of what's going on here.
I take it it's your gut reaction, because that's the best I got out of what you said. Your gut reaction, that's the best I got out of what you said.
It's life experience, really, Gary, on many points. I can actually give you a list of similar scenarios that I've faced in the past where we've had best guess figures put to us and where they have fallen over. And I'm not saying that maybe the Working Party are wrong. What I'm saying is it's very early and we don't actually have to make that decision today. We can actually afford, because we are in a position where we can afford to wait and see what crystallises in 2 or 3 years.
Thanks, Councillor. Delhi.
You've always been really strong on the internal business unit, but having Toby as a guest speaker in the public forum this morning, I wonder if there is now an agenda to sit for a while, but ultimately join a collaborative water services organisation that we've basically discounted.
I believe Mayor Adams was very clear when he spoke this morning. And obviously he would speak in favour of Waikato Water's done well, but he actually did say, if you'd listened closely, any other water services organisation, not exclusively Waikato Water's done well. So he, I believe, was quite balanced in the way he presented his case this morning. He did not exclude other WSOs.
I wasn't questioning his balance, and I did listen very carefully. But I just feel it at the 11th hour to have this kōrero after we've gone through month upon month of reports from our consultants and from our working group. I just wondered if there was not just a business unit on the agenda, but a potential on-ramping to Waikato Water's done.
Well, I couldn't deny there is a possible on-ramping with Waikato Water's done well, as is with any other WSO. That's a possibility. In fact, that is actually my long-term game here, is to actually make sure that those on-ramps exist for us, and they do with an internal business unit. And there's something else you said, Delhi. Look, I've spoken to staff about the ability and the capability of this organisation to do an internal business unit, and they are confident they can do it. They can work it. It's a definite.
Rico.
So it's been pretty well documented that I've been the other fence sitter on this topic, and you bring up staff just then and you've had a conversation. The staff recommendation in the report that we've just received, the order paper, is not what you're saying. So I just think when we make these decisions, we need to deal in fact. We have a recommendation from staff that is not in line with what you're saying. We've heard earlier in conversations from the working group that, you know, you need to be at the negotiating table and the space now. But essentially that the door for Waikato Waters done well is not really open to us at this point in time. So I just want to make sure that we're really clear around this table with what the facts are.
Your question is?
Okay, so why would staff be informing you that that's the preference when they didn't put that in the order paper?
No. Okay, so not the preference. That's not what I said. They have the ability, if this council goes with an in-house business unit, to actually do the job. So not their preference, but they have the ability, if this council, and it is our decision, decide to go with an in-house business unit, the ability is within this organisation to actually have such a unit.
But I think also Aileen was quite clear in her summary. If this council decides that this is what they want us, the governance team, that they would like her and her team to do, they can do it. And Ian has been also very clear about that. We can pivot. The recommendation is for the WSO, but the two options that are put to us are an internal services, water services unit and a joint WSO. The recommendation is for the WSO, but both options are on the table. What hasn't been happening and which Councillor Morrissey has put in front of us is a resolution for councillors to debate and decide, is it this one or is it this was option one or option two? But staff have been quite clear. We can do whatever you guys want us to do. Have I got that right, Ian?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, both are extremely viable options. And we'll take direction on whatever comes from this table. And obviously we'll pivot to the water service delivery plan to prepare that in time for the legislative time frame.
Thank you. And the other comment that I'd make, and again, this is coming out of the discussions with other councils around the timelines for putting together joint WSOs, whether it's with Western Bay of Plenty or TCC, is that the pathways are 26 at the earliest, 27, 28, because there's already a fair bit of work, but the timelines are a fair way down the track, which gives us time to do what we need to do and allows time for the staff to be able to prepare. But it's fair to say that a lot of that work has already been done in preparation for potentially councillors making this decision. So, look, I've got a list of councillors who want to speak to the debate. I think we'll move from clarification of the points. Thank you, Councillor Morrissey. You've done a great job. And I've got a list now which starts with Delhi, Peter, and Terry. Can I just ask councillors if you want to take part in that? First of all, let us know now so that we can get through that, but also identify, are you speaking to option one in favour or option one against, please? So that's where we're at the moment. So we'll start with Delhi. Thank you.
So, the trendy thing to say is that this has been quite a journey. Everyone's having journeys nowadays, and it has been quite a journey. And we've had some very, very good advice from the consultants who have a great reputation, who have done a lot of work that neither staff nor elected members could possibly undertake on their own. I was a fence sitter for a while, looking at what the implications might be long term, that fear of losing things. We went out to consultation to our community with a preferred option. Because I can read graphs, I have a bachelor's degree in education. The move or the support for the WSO, TCC Western Bay, is marginally above the in-house unit, and there is a small percentage of people who I don't know. The reason I believed that it was our preferred option, the reasons I should say, were quite sound. So in the long term, in terms of the pain and suffering of our local constituents around the cost of the infrastructure that they need, I have been swayed by that possibility or likelihood rather than possibility that expenses will be mitigated and there will be some benefit from, scale of procurement or whatever. The thing that gave me pause was the letter from Ngāti Hei, who are my local iwi, and I have a very good relationship with them. And I know that going in certain directions causes them more cultural and historical angst than other directions. And it seems that there will be some cultural and historical angst no matter which way we go. But the getting in on the ground floor with a WSO, having the ability to bring all of our constituents' concerns and aspirations to the table, not just iwi, to make sure that those negotiations are done with a veil of sensitivity around waters, because water is very, very important, and the wairua around water, but also our aspirations as a council for what we need to get out of it. And we've heard it told that if this was a dance party, we're a very attractive and very desirable dance partner. So we are wanted and we are desired. So therefore one would expect we would have some negotiating power at the table. And I also trust those who do the negotiating to come back to us and say, look, there's a sticking point here. We're not happy about this. Like it's not a off you go and sell the family silver. It's more of a process where we get the right people negotiating. And I would imagine that we all have input in our iwi groups around the rohi also have input into that. So what I'm saying is I'm for a WSO with TCC in Western Bay for the benefits that have been outlined, and also resting my decision on the expertise of the people who have done the very, very hard work to get to the position to make this recommendation.
Thank you, Delhi. Peter Breville, please.
Thanks, Chair. I've got 6 points to make on this at this point, but I would like to begin by commending the Chief Executive on the address that she gave us just prior to morning tea. And I think when we get to the end of all this and our decision is made, I would encourage everybody to go back and look at the recording of what the Chief Executive said. It highlighted for me the professionalism, robustness of what we've done. It highlighted for me the thoroughness of the task, the quality of the advice that we have been given. But she also talks about staff and acknowledging that we're making a decision here, which is obviously going to have impact on ratepayers, but there is impact on staff. And I think it's really good that we and appropriate that that gets acknowledged. And thank you for that, Aileen. I think my second point is we as a council nominated people to be on a working group, and we see the up on the top to bottom table, or whatever that table is, the experts who were in that working group, and added to that were the mayor and the deputy mayor and John Grant. So they really, on our behalf as mortal councillors, have done a huge amount of work in getting their head around what the situation is and what the options. They have been part of the debates that have gone on around the working group, and also they've had the opportunity to talk to key stakeholders directly, face to face, and they have had the opportunity to talk to staff who in turn have been talking to other stakeholders and get a really good feel. So when we come to making this decision, I think we need to pay particular attention to what our representatives on the working group have to say about the matter. We have been presented with a huge amount of data, and it's impossible for any of us to absorb all that detail. We are bounded by, bounded rationality, really. There's only so much that we're able to take in, but we need to make a judgment call that is a call that's not about necessarily what's best for our district or what's best for our current ratepayers, but it's what is best for the generations that come along long after we have hung up our boots. And therefore, the decision we need to make needs to be made on the information that we have. It cannot be a gut decision. It cannot be a heart decision. It has to be a decision of the head. What is the best decision we can make for the future of waters in our district? To look at things that may or may not happen, like amalgamation or whatever it is, those are things that are in the future, and we just do not know, as Councillor Morrissey pointed out. We do not know those things, but we're still called to make a decision and a judgment based on what we know today. My position is I'm supporting the WSO with the sub-regional WSO with the Western Bay of Plenty and Tauranga districts. And there are four key things for that for me. One is, firstly, the financial benefits. So financial benefits that are not guaranteed, I can see, but actually point to, from the data we've seen, point to be most likely to accrue as for ratepayers as we join a WSO. We're talking, I think, by 2044, something like a 19% compounded reduction in costs by 2044. A key to that is being part of a large metro organisation. And the key to that, therefore, is being aligned with Tauranga District Council. We do not know where Hamilton is going to go, and we might speculate, but what we do know is that Tauranga are prepared to be part of this WSO. And with that also there's financial benefit to council, because we do have a significant reduction in borrowing, and that puts us in a situation without external debt. The reality is that the WSO will need to have, and because of its scale, will attract highly competent professional directors to govern the operations. They will be that will be an absolutely critical thing to the success of water services for our district. And also, because of its size, the WSO will represent significant career opportunities. So it will attract quality staff. So the work that will be done by the WSO will be top notch because there will be quality staff, and the result of that will be quality of service. None of those things I have mentioned are available to us today with an internal in-house operation. Having said all that, we do need to make sure that as we take the next steps, that we do negotiate the deal which is good for our district. We need to allay those primary fears of losing control, the primary fears that have been outlined by iwi, and the primary fears of our small communities about losing their voice. We need to be ensure that our ratepayers are not lumbered with paying unfairly for underinvestment of other districts. That's something else we need to take into account as we put legs on this. We know we have got a really good plan around our water services for the next 10 years, and we need to drive to have that accepted as part of this WSO. And finally, we need to join now, because now is when we have our strongest negotiating position. We are able to shape the purpose, we're able to shape the structure, we're able to shape the rules, the values, and the priorities of the WSO. We're there on the ground floor, and that is when we have our best opportunity. That may or may not be the case in 2027. In 2029, it probably won't be even a consideration for a WSO. So I'd like to encourage all of us as councillors around this table to be moving and to vote against this current resolution, and conversely vote for the resolution that has been put forward to us by the staff.
Thank you, Peter. Terry, have I got anyone else who wants to speak after Terry? We've got John Grant. I've got my name on there, and I'll be brief. John G. Anyone else? Okay, we'll go to Terry, please.
Thank you. And I've taken some notes too, which I'd like to read, and just put my support for a WSO, and thank the CE for her words and direction that we heard in this meeting. I go back to the word affordability, and it came strongly through the public consultation. 69% of people wanted to see that. I think this is a discussion about future-proofing our infrastructure with affordability for the future. And joining the Tauranga City and Western Bays of Plenty offers better cost efficiencies over time with shared overheads, procurement and specialist staff, reducing long-term costs. Financial models show that WSO is more sustainable beyond year 10 horizon, especially as infrastructure demands rise. And we've all known the cost of infrastructure over the last 5 or 10 years and the cost of it. TCDC and Western Bays are ready and willing to partner now, allowing TCDC to co-design the WSO from inception. Waikato Base WSOs are not available to TCDC until 2027, with uncertainty whether TCDC will be accepted at all. There's no promises. A joint WSO is better equipped to meet complex regulatory compliance, including drinking water standards, environmental consents, economic and consumer regulation. Smaller councils alone may struggle to keep pace with significant rates increases. Invoicing, responding and maintenance are key things that Tauranga City can provide, which we struggle to see with Waikato Water's done well. And operation resilience and capacity. Pooling resources across 3 councils brings a stronger skill base, engineers, asset managers and water scientists, improving ability to respond to emergencies and plan long-term capital investment more efficiently. Shared financial and compliance risk reduced the exposure of one council. Joint ownership retains local representation and oversight while allowing shared governance and decision making. And I just want to finish with the 9-person working group, and included 3 staff, 3 elected members and 3 consultants. It was chosen by council and was nominated by council to make an informed direction. 3 reports and 4 workshops were done between July 24 and today, including independent analysis by Martin Jenkins. Early verbal aspirations by some to join with Waikato Water's Done Well were scrutinised by the group, but that option was set aside after robust assessments was undertaken, not rushed, not political, but informed by real data and public input. So I'd just like to say that I support the WSO and option that has been presented by staff, and want all around the table to think carefully about their decision, because this is an important decision. It has long-term outputs, and we need to think the future of our grandchildren about making this decision today. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. I'll go straight to John Grant, and then I'll just a couple of short comments from me at the end, and then we'll go back to Councillor Morrissey for a right of reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Len. The first thing I'd like to say to everybody is I feel great pride in the people around this table today. I think the maturity of the debate has been outstanding. And I mean that from everybody, including you, John, that I acknowledge your beliefs in what you see here as the option that you're promoting. And I've heard some terrific words, some very thoughtful words that have been put together by other people. There's not a lot that I can really add to what has been said, because I think, you know, everybody has summed things up so well. What I would like to do is to talk to the credibility of the people that were on the working group. And I think that that's a really important part of the consideration. With Nick and Mike at Martin Jenkins, we have, I believe, New Zealand's most outstanding resource in regard to knowledge of this space with waters. You know, Nick has written papers on this subject that have been acknowledged by peers within the water industry as being really out there in regard to the foremost understanding of where things are moving. So I just really wanted to acknowledge it, and Ian, through his project management and delivery, has been also outstanding as well, from a participant that has been on the working group. We've had some terrific debates. I go right back to the early days, even before my days on council, and I was very involved in those early days with the Three Waters program, because my son was one of the original consultants who actually was working on the Three Waters program. And I had him in my ear for a number of times talking on the subject, and we had a number of debates about it. My initial thoughts were, from a council perspective, that we should retain control and manage it ourselves. I was encouraged by words in the early days about, you know, what great shape we were in as a council, and how we had the abilities to do that. I think it's extremely clear to me through the work that we have done is that is absolutely right. But what is also correct is that we are talking about decisions around the future here. And in the future, it is very clear that we have a far better path for our ratepayers in a WSO than we would have on a standalone basis. And the time now is to be involved in the shaping of that WSO in the best interest of all of our people in this district. It will provide a better overall package for them. I have no doubt about that from the work that I have done. And I look at the models that have been prepared. The models have been tested against actual real live scenarios to give confidence. They have even discounted the efficiencies within that to be even more conservative in the approach to it. So I acknowledge that things can change. Look at the last couple of weeks, how things have changed in the world. And, you know, it does. But we have, as Peter said, got to make the decisions today based on the information that we have, the factual information. And for that reason, I will be voting against this motion and voting in support of the WSO. And again, thank you very much to the staff. I think you've acted absolutely professionally. You have the presentation that Aileen made earlier today, I think was outstanding, and I acknowledge that and say go back and have a listen to it because it sums things up perfectly well. And thanks to the team for their effort, everybody who's been involved. I think you've acted outstandingly well, and I was proud to be part of it.
Thank you, John. So I'm going to make a couple of short comments, but some of this is really picking up on the comments that have been made earlier, and I also want to acknowledge and thank that the team, not just the consultants, but our internal team as well, and our Waters Working Group for the work that has gone into this. So you, John, you, Terry, the smaller contribution that I've made, but also Mo and your team, Ian, and Nick and Mike. There was a really interesting thing. I was reading through some literature that the Office of the Auditor General had been done in analysing work that the OAG had done on council's long-term plans. And there was some discussion in there about SPVs or special purpose vehicles. And I raised this at one of the Waters working groups because special purpose vehicles have been used as an alternative funding model or an alternative funding vehicle by some councils for some infrastructure projects. And so I raised it just to, hey, what's the deal with this? Is there an opportunity for us or a wider group that we are part of? And Nick said, oh, I know what this is about because I wrote the law on it. Sorry, Mike. It was on the other end of the, apologies for getting that wrong, was on the other end of the online discussion. Mike, you wrote the law on it. So I felt at that stage we had some pretty good people in the room helping and guiding us on that. And the long and the short of that is those SPVs are there and available, but for much, much bigger projects, $100 million plus projects. I didn't know that, but so that was really useful to have that. Two things I want to acknowledge. First of all, it's been raised before, Ngāti Hei and the letter from Ngāti Hei and the contribution and the words from Ngāti Hei I thought were extremely valuable. And I want to acknowledge the contribution from Joe, from Peter Mate Johnston, and from Shelley Balsam. Really good summary of their position and what they feel around this, and it's not to be taken or not to be underestimated. The other thing I just want to touch on is around borrowings, and John Morrissey has brought this up, and it's often brought up when you're talking to people in the community. This is something I'm very strong on. The councils need to borrow for future infrastructure, and I don't think it's fair and equitable in any way that the ratepayers of today should be paying for infrastructure that is 60, 70 years lifespan and that future generations get the benefit of, and we've paid for it today. So that's something that is raised often in the community. I think there's a fair balance to be had, but today's ratepayers should not be paying for 60-year infrastructure out of today's rates. That creates an imbalance, which I think is not equitable on any level. So I'll leave it there. I think there's some really good points.
Liam, can I just question, as we all have in speaking, an indication of whether you're supporting this motion or not?
So What I'd like to do is, I'm happy to do that, but I'm going to propose that we've got a reading from the speaking that we've had so far from the way this vote is going to go on option 1. And I've been clear with John Morrissey. I've been clear with the councillors I've spoken to. I have struggled with this because I see so many benefits and arguments on both sides. I did consider abstaining because there isn't any need, I don't think, for my vote. But at the same time, if I abstain, I don't think that's fair to the ratepayers and to the people that elected me into this position. So I'm going to vote against this, and I'm going to support the establishment of the WSO. I've struggled with this because I've seen really good, strong arguments on both sides, but looking forward to the future efficiencies, the future costs, and the future benefits for our ratepayers, I think that I need to support the WSO model and the work that needs to be done, or the work that has been done. That's the next stage.
Lynn, can I just comment on that? And I would say that the burden you feel is a burden that every one of us around this table has been grappling with, and I just empathise or understand that the difficulty that I think it's been a challenge for all of us.
Thanks, Peter. And yes, and I have struggled with that, and I'm sure all of us have. It's been kept me awake a few nights. So, and part of that is just the sheer respect and admiration that I have for Councillor Morrissey and where his values come from. And he's a man of his community, as we all are, but that's what's driven him to bring this and to want to have the debate around it. So, John, thank you. We're going to put this...
Right of reply.
Oh, sorry, right of reply. Thank you.
I never die easily, Lynn.
Thank you for the reminder.
Right of reply. Okay. First of all, I do thank the Martin Jenkins team and staff, because the report was a good report, and it's not because it wasn't that I ended up where I ended up, okay? So, yeah, thank you for all the effort you put in. And I'm pleased that that resolution ended up, I slid it in. I tried sneakily earlier, but finally did get it in. I'm pleased that resolution ended up on the table and being debated, okay? Because ratepayers deserve to have this issue debated. Previously, it would have been pretty much a rubber stamp with no debate. Every ratepayer will know, after we vote, the position of each councillor on what is an extremely important decision. So I'm pleased that we have had the debate, and it was conducted well. And I brought a first aid kit with some sticking plasters to patch myself up afterwards, so it's all good. There is just one thing, and maybe I used the term gut feeling before, and Gary mentioned it. A gut feeling, it's not really a gut feeling. My position has come about through life experience. A few years sitting around this council table. So it's not just what I feel in my gut. I've actually got a little bit of life experience with this sort of stuff. So I do firmly believe that a internal business unit will be the best option for this council. And yeah, I don't think I've got a lot more to add. Just checking on my notes. Oh, just one thing to make clear, that resolution is not anti-WSO. It's more about the timing of this, all right? And that's an important consideration. It's so that when council has a few years just to see how the internal business unit builds up and how the WSOs go. So this is not anti so much WSO, although I believe the internal business unit would have shone through in the end anyway. So yeah, that's my lot. Throw your hands up, throw them down. It's done.
John. So we have a mover and a seconder. I'll put the motion. All those in favour of option 1.
Oh, option 1. I'm in there. Martin, me mate.
Those against? Motion is lost. Thank you. We'll go straight to the motion on the Terry second. All those in favour? Oh, sorry. I thought we'd had the debate.
It's the only option you got.
Okay, just really quickly,
Sure.
under our recommendations, number 5.
Yeah.
And I think even 6 and 7, we talk about these actions, instruct the CE and the working group to formalise and things like that. Should we be including timeframes? Like when will these things happen? Do we need to be that specific in our recommendations?
Well, if we move the motion, there is some time structures in place that been suggested. Not
So we are driven by the Water Services Delivery Plan.
It is a
mandated requirements.
Should we be saying that then?
Sorry, Aileen, you're gonna.
I'm suggesting we don't draft something here and now. As is always my advice, can I suggest we bring back to you one of Ian's famous Gantt charts to show you what lies ahead of us? We could put that in at the Friday update, or we could bring it back to the next available council meeting.
That would make me happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Aileen. Okay. So if we go back to the.
Here's a question.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
I understand this side of the table is hard to see. In your report, and again in the slides that you guys presented this morning, Nick, there was just one comment. So it was on page 7 of your slides, so page 207 of our report. Just one little comment about the Bay of Plenty model expected to be a 3-water model, and I just wondered when we would have clarity on how many waters are going in.
I'm happy to answer that question. So for TCDC, it's water and wastewater assets that will transfer to the WSO. Stormwater will remain within council because it's more aligned to roading and drainage, but the intention is to procure those services through the WSO.
No, excellent. And because, of course, the resolutions do mention the resolution of stormwater assets, asset management, and remain within council ownership. But because it had been raised in the report and then raised again this morning, it was on the slides. I just thought, is there clarity about whether that is going to be an option for us? But thank you, Mo. I appreciate your answer.
Thank you. Okay. If there's no further discussion, we had a mover in Terry. We had a seconder in John Grant. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against?
Aye.
2.
Recorded,
please. Okay. Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors.
Thank you again to Mayor Toby for coming to take part in that discussion.
Big vote of thanks to the group up there. Well done.
You all.
Go home now.
No. Get back round
No,
the table.
nothing.
Get in here.
Nothing for you.
What's morning tea time?
Morning tea. I thought we'd have that.
Just go. We got some catching up.
Thank
to
you.
do.
You get yourself back resource
Centre. How much money are we putting into that?
Unless you can promise me, I don't want to waste a single cent.
Yeah.
Is it? I'm going to suggest we take a 5-minute comfort stop, and I need one, please. And then we'll come back and do our Thames-Coromandel District Spatial Plan. So 5-minute comfort stop. There's a lot of movement and talk.
I've been waiting 10 years. Hayes,
Yeah.
right, give it a go.
This.
You go ahead, Gary. All right, so we're going to continue, but I am going to ask Terry, if you don't mind, to step in for a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Before we move on to the next item, can I just ask the Chief Executive a question, please? Because in the previous item, we did have or potentially it's a question for the working group. We did have a letter directly from Ngāti Hay. I presume that there will be a response to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, that's an instruction.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we're going to now move to the Thames-Coromandel District Spatial Plan, and we've got Leslie and Nikki at the front of the table. Welcome. And the floor is yours.
Could I just check that Nikki has been introduced to council?
I was just about to do
Awesome.
that.
Okay, I'll leave that in your hands.
Before we consider the report, I'd like to introduce Nikki Green to you all. Nikki's our new strategic and district plan team leader. So she's been with us for about a month now. And you'll be seeing a lot more of her as this project develops. Hopefully you will approve that we initiate it today. But she is she's taking grasp of our district plan and all of the change that needs to happen with that as we move towards, hopefully moving towards more of an operative status for it. But she'll also lead the spatial planning that we'll be doing.
Welcome.
Welcome, Nikki. Yeah, Aileen.
Yeah, so Nikki comes to us with a huge amount of experience and reputation in the sector as being a leader in all sorts of planning matters. And the day that Nikki agreed to come and work for us, I got a phone call from the Chief Executive of the Bay of Plenty Regional Council. And I think it was one of those look after her or else phone calls. So that's just a reflection of the manner in which she has come to us with.
Thank you. Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd also like to acknowledge Sian Smith sitting in the back. She's going to be quite instrumental in this project. So the three of us have written this report, which is before you. It's a request for formal approval of the spatial planning project. You have provided funding in the LTP, but we have been working to set it up, and we'd like to have your formal approval to move forward with early discussions. We've had a couple of workshops, as you know, about spatial planning, the difference between spatial planning and district planning. I think that this project responds to a long-standing need and demand from our communities for strategic place-based direction for the future. And that's what our intention is. And we will be developing this plan in an uncertain environment. We've got resource management reform, possibly some changes to various councils' roles and responsibilities. Nevertheless, I think that this project is needed in the district and it will benefit our communities. And I take the report as read, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so you've heard from Leslie. So let's just put it out there for some discussion. Yes, we've got Rika first. Yep.
Thanks, Leslie. And I absolutely agree that this is a piece of work that would be beneficial to our communities. I'm particularly keen to understand, with regards to the uncertainty that we have in the RMAs.
Is that a...
That is a morning tea, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay.
There's a deeper person.
Okay.
You can be linked in if there's one who has anything.
Thank you. No, I absolutely have lost my train of thought. Just wanting to understand, there is a lot of uncertainty in the RMA space. We had the PM yesterday talking about the potential to maybe do away with regional councils. My concern is that we spend money here and progress something that we may then have to change in the next couple of years. And I really want to have an understanding around the work that we
Use that. Sorry about that.
undertake being, I think useful is the wrong word, but of value to our communities and not be wasteful, or whether we're better to push pause and wait for some clarity in that legislation space. Did that make sense? Sorry, thank you.
Good morning, councillors. Thanks for welcoming me. We're very aware of this uncertainty. We're also very aware that the regional council is considering regional spatial planning in the face of uncertainty as well. I think in relation to spatial planning, both the previous government and this government have said that RMA reforms will result in the need for a mandatory regional spatial plan and combined planning of some type. So the need for district planning and spatial planning won't go away. The benefit of progressing now in a no regrets way is to advance the research base and some of the early discussions that you may need to inform a spatial plan. And by the time you get to decisions on content, we should have more certainty about how that lands under the new law. As far as we can see, the likelihood of there not needing to be spatial planning or not needing to be future investment and integrated investment decisions and planning is very slim. So there'd be benefit in having this program advanced enough to fit into wherever new legislation takes us.
So I hear what Rika's saying, and it really is a good point, isn't it, about the horse before the cart type thing, and how far down the road are we going to go before we have to pick up all those. So your time frames for this is just to build some information into a draft form. Is this the direction?
Timeframes, indicative timeframes are in the report.
Yeah.
And we anticipate that by in the next couple of months we'll see a bill for the RM replacement, and by mid next year it'll be enacted. So you wouldn't be making decisions or going into formal consultation until after that.
Right. Okay, you'll keep us adrift of that as it goes along. Yes, Aileen.
Sorry, I'm just going to make a comment if that's all right. I think effort to put the building blocks in place is never wasted, no matter what happens. It's probably the first point. Secondly, I think we've got a decade of strategic deficit where we really haven't advanced anything strategic in the planning space. And the other thing we haven't done is do it at a district level. So those three things will never be wasted effort. And when the regional spatial plan comes along, we need to have something to plug in to show what this district is about. So I think the staff can manage the timelines in accordance with the balancing the certainties, but I think there's a desperate need for us to act in a strategic manner and get those building blocks in place before that law reform comes along.
Okay, thank you. And just before I move to Peter, it's in your paragraph under your timing, it says a potential governance structure for this project that would involve mana whenua, WRC representatives and other key agencies. What do you mean with other key agencies? DOC, community groups,
NZTA, various government agencies, Ministry of Health.
Right. Does this drill right down to community plans?
We will engage with communities for sure. We are engaging at the community level for sure. We see community boards as being really critical to that engagement. And that was a point I was going to make, irrespective of who delivers spatial planning, whether it is delivered at district level or is the district spatial plan feeds into regional plan that engagement with communities is critical to the success.
Right.
And it takes time. That
Yeah.
engagement will take time.
Thank you. Peter, did you have some comment?
Look, I'd just like to probably bounce off what Councillor Gary Percival has said, in that my concern is when we do things that end up being what you generally call waste. So my concern here is that we embark upon a body of work that when we find out more detail further down the track, we end up having to, in a sense, do the rework because we didn't ask 3 important questions or whatever that process looks like. And that concerns me, that there would be the potential that we'll do, and then we end up doing the rework. And the rework is a killer, it's a waste of money, et cetera, et cetera. So my question, and it's probably more a question for the Chief Executive, you know, a couple of years ago, we made a call when we were developing our LTP to make the decision that we would keep waters in our LTP rather than take it out. And that turned out to be absolutely the right decision because of the time it has saved us subsequently and so on. But it was a judgment call that we ended up making. I just wonder, is there the same confidence that the Chief Executive would have that this work won't need to be reworked and going forward?
So I'll ask Leslie and Nikki to pull me up if I'm not quite right. But got to answer this carefully. There's a number of people sitting in this room that have signed an NDA with and are assisting government in the reforms, and Mayor Toby being one of those, Nikki and myself and another person in our planning team. So we kind of have a view about where the law reform is heading. And when you have a look at the documents that underpin the law reform, they're quite clear what they are. So I think whichever government is in office in the next term, all of them are looking for the same thing, which is some sort of spatial planning that helps inform large investment decisions like NZTA and protects sort of electricity and those types of things. So I think it's really clear that a regional spatial plan is wanted by everybody to deal with those very large infrastructural matters. A district plan at a spatial plan at a district level might also address other matters that communities want addressed. So I think it's quite important we know that there's differentiation between the kind of matters that will be in that regional spatial plan versus what's in our local district plan. So I take the point that there could be wasted effort, but when you think about the fact that we're in a decade of deficit in doing any of that kind of stuff, we've actually got the reverse is probably the risk, that all of the spatial planning lands and we're not ready for it because we haven't done our homework here at home. So I would say the risk is the opposite to we're going to do stuff and waste effort.
I think the positives that the bipartisan agreement between the government would help giving a direction.
Can I say bipartisan agreement's probably a bit strong? Toby can shake his head if I'm wrong, but it's just all the government, I guess funding from the centre is limited, so everybody's looking at reasons and underpinning evidence for where they put their infrastructure investment. So it's probably aligned interest as opposed to any kind of agreement.
We hope for bipartisan. Yeah. Okay, Robin.
Can I just pick up on the comment you made there, Aileen, that certainly it is a desire of many of our communities to have a sense of what the next 30 years might look like for their community. So I absolutely take on the value of that. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, Robin.
Well, 2 things. Firstly, I was just going to move that we receive the report so that we could talk about it. And then I have something to say.
Happy to say you move it. You have to receive the report. You got a second to Mark, so that's fine. Any other comment?
I do have some comments.
Yeah.
Aye.
There you go.
Okay. we haven't done that yet, but when it comes to the substance, I'm actually very happy to move number 2 and number 3 as well. My comment was really, we did a spatial planning exercise for Thames, the Thames spatial plan in the last triennium, and the conclusion that the elected members at the table came to was that actually spatial planning was a really valuable thing. And I absolutely hear what Nikki and Leslie and Aileen have said as our trusted subject matter experts on that this is never going to be a wasted effort. This is something that is being called for by our communities. We've seen an email from a community asking for a spatial plan. And so really not much to say, except I'm happy to move. I have moved 1 and 2, and I'm happy to move 3 as well.
Okay, so yeah, we'll just carry on though. We've noted that you'll move that and the seconded. Martin, did you want to say? We can just move to receive though, isn't it?
We can move the entire.
Well, I just think we'll hear the discussion, but if you want to move to receive, is that still the case?
I mean, I think procedurally we really should have moved to receive at the beginning
Okay,
before we had any
so
discussion.
we'll just do that just so we can get that through. So Robin's moved to receive the report and Mark's moved to second it. And all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. So Martin, did you have some comments?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So just looking at page 233 of our agenda, and there's a indicative timeline there. With the first step, the research, early issues and options identification, and then that seems to be separate from, which is like June, pretty much, what's that, 8-9 months, and then early engagement of 2 months. So is that the options identification and the issues that will be involving community?
So we are looking at the concept of having material around the state and trends of different factors affecting the district and information about potential options or potential futures available to centre the discussions, I guess, but very much working draft so that we can have active engagement around those, and other scenarios and things can come forward at the same time through that, so that we're not going to the community of the blank slate. We're giving them something to really challenge and question. We've looking to secure a consultant to help us with a really good engagement plan around having both that early phase engagement, which would be March next year, and the more formal consultation later on an actual draft plan.
Yeah, because I mean, while I recognise you don't want to go out with a blank slate, because you'll then get potentially every community saying, right, we want this, 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 and this. I'd also be wary of us going out with an almost completed plan, and then we get the, well, you've ignored the fact that we've got a blah, blah, blah pond that's got some issues, so somewhere finding that middle ground. But I also go back to former councillors, Murray McLean and Tony Fox, who for the first term that we were elected, kept emphasising the fact that TCDC doesn't have a long-term vision, and that we were really letting developers all around the peninsula decide the future and the future vision for our peninsula. So I'd be very, very keen to, well,